Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Indianapolis Colts, 6-5, 3-3 home. Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. Shout out to our very own diehard MMA podcast, Clint. He was all over the Colts, and it was a very easy victory for him. Now, we were waiting. I was sitting here waiting. I was thinking, after Tampa Bay's display against the Giants, when will this move to 3? It is now moved to 3. So it opened Tampa Bay -2.5, -107. Pinnacle has a -2.5 and -129. So a 22-cent move there. I've never really seen them with a -129. So the 3s are on the board now. This total opened up at 51. Pinnacle's already moved it to 52. Let's move over to the cash side of things. Now, look, sometimes things simplify, and I still want to make it complicated. It's just God, I don't understand. There's a very simple thing going on with these Buccaneers where they're cashing easily at home and they're losing and not covering on the road. Will that continue here? 3,341 tickets in. 65% of the tickets are on the Buccaneers and 86% of the cash. Sharps are all over the Buccaneers here on the road. 65% of tickets on the over. Let's move over to the game. Buccaneers are on a short week after snapping their 2-game losing streak with an easy 30-10 win at home over the Giants on Monday night. Brady avoided dropping 3 in a row for the first time since 2002. Brady 30-46, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Wasn't sacked. Leads the NFL with 29 touchdown passes, second in yards passing at 3,172. Mike Evans caught 6 passes for 73 yards and a touchdown. Evans set a franchise record with a 72nd touchdown passing on Mike Allstott. Gronkowski was back in the lineup after missing 5 of 6, caught 6 passes for 71 yards, was targeted 8 times. Godwin caught 6 passes for 65 yards and a touchdown. Leonard Fournette ran 10 times for 35 yards, caught 6 passes for 39 yards. Their defense caused problems for the Giants all night. 2 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. Mike Edwards, Steve McClendon each had interceptions. McClendon's first pick of his 12-year career. Left guard Ali Marpet left in the second quarter with no oblique strain. He's listed as questionable. Antonio Brown inactive. Vita Vea, I thought might be gone for a long time. Not the case. Bruce Arians expects him to be in the lineup Sunday against the Colts. These Colts are rolling. Coming off 41-15 win at Buffalo, 5th win in 6 games. They're back into the AFC playoff picture. Jonathan Taylor had 5 touchdowns, ran for 185 yards, 1,122 yards rushing this season. Rolling. 14 touchdowns, leads the league 2 ahead of James Conor. Topped 100 yards from scrimmage and scored a touchdown for the 8th consecutive game. That matches the NFL record set by Liddell Mitchell and matched by LaDainian Tomlinson. Carson Wentz stayed out of trouble, going 11 for 20 for 106 yards, 1 touchdown. Jack Doyle was the leading receiver with just 3 catches for 30 yards, but why mess with what was working? They got just 1 sack and 3 quarterback hits, but they did pick off Josh Allen twice and Trubisky once. Colts extended their run of games with a takeaway to 12. Guard Quentin Nelson aggravated his right ankle injury. He's listed as day-to-day, but this is a pretty healthy squad that seems to be rolling. Babano, huge marquee game. Buccaneers, Colts, take it away.
So the Indianapolis Colts, in their last 8 games, their 2 losses were in overtime. That's how close they are to an 8-game win streak right now, to Baltimore and to Tennessee. So it's been an impressive run for this Indianapolis Colts team right now. And you mentioned Vita Vea. I think Vita Vea is enormous in towards his impact and whether he's on the field for this game, towards how this game transpires. Because Jonathan Taylor and this run game keeps getting better. This is no joke, this Colts offensive line. I talked about it earlier. This is one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, the Indianapolis Colts. There's no doubt. And they've got to have Vita Vea here if you can at least, and it sounds like he will play, but that's the anchor of that defensive line. He's by far the best run stopper that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have. He's a difference maker with that run defense of Tampa Bay. So we'll see if he is indeed going to suit up. If that is, that's big, because if he's in there and they can even just a little bit keep Jonathan Taylor under wraps, and then Carson Wentz, who we know when he faces pressure, and he's going to see some here with Sue and some of these defensive edge rushers that the Buccaneers can throw at him. If that run game's not going to be as effective with Vea playing, that's when he makes those mistakes, Carson Wentz. So it's very fascinating here. It's a tough one for me. This is my first game where I really have a tough time early in the week coming up with a side here, because I don't know if I want to step in front of the Colts. but they're everybody's favorite team now after what they did to the Bills and the way they've played the last few weeks. Everybody's hyping them up. Everybody's singing the praises of the Indianapolis Colts now after destroying Buffalo last week, and I'm not 100% sure this is a value buy low spot, if you know what I'm saying right here with the Indianapolis Colts in this game. And if Vea plays for the Buccaneers, I guarantee you they'll have better run defense against Jonathan Taylor than the Buffalo Bills showed, on Sunday. So that's definitely something that concerns me here. But what concerns me for taking Tampa Bay here is, Jimmy, you mentioned it, the futility on the road. It can't be ignored. The way this team has looked so drastically different away from Tampa Bay this year, and there's no sugarcoating it. 2-3 straight up, 0-5 against the spread, straight up losses on the road to a Saints team that really hasn't been the same. That was the game, of course, Winston got injured. Simeon actually came in, finished the game, and led them to a victory. The Washington lost by 10 off a bye week. They lost to the Rams decisively. They barely beat the New England Patriots. That was the one straight-up road win this year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this has not been a team that I really trust here to lay points on the road. So it's a hard game for me early in the week. I would probably lean over the total if we get no Vea, because I think if the run game is able to work for the Colts, that's going to just open up everything in this game for their offense. And Wentz needs Taylor to be able to run the ball, to have that offense be at its absolute best. So if there's no Vea, I probably may look at the over. But as of right now, from a side perspective, it's a tough one, and I'm staying off for now.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Brady thinks it's a buy low spot on the Bucs. Says Gronk being back is huge, just like Kittle. Gronk makes a huge difference for the Bucs. C-Mac, wildly interesting game. Take it away.
Yeah, it is. I believe it's a little bit of a buy low here with the Bucs as well. Just them on the road has been insane. You got to think Tom Brady's been hearing this shit about how, them on the road, now they've won some games. They can't, they haven't covered talking about the Saints game. But for the big part, it's 3. Usually when they go into that Saints game was 4, but it always seems like they're laying a big number on the road. This is short. One thing with the Colts, they've had their way. That offensive line's been together for years. It's finally really working, and then you're just doing great. Taylor's just running like crazy. One thing is they played a few banged up teams. They lost the Colts. They beat the Niners. All I know is they've scored almost 30 points every game except the Jags game. They've gone over the total for their last 5. I think the Bucs will be able to move the ball against the Colts here. My initial lead a little bit is on the over as well. I think the Colts will move it here. Man, it's just 3. It's difficult. Do these Colts just keep rolling? Are they that hot right now? Taylor, can Wentz just needs to be solid, not screw up. You know what I mean? Make his plays when he has to downfield. Don't throw any picks. This Bucs team's a bit opposite of last year. They were good on the road. I mean, that big game against Green Bay to get to the Super Bowl. I know they've won a few, but they haven't covered. Now at 3, it seems low to me. It's very difficult. This is one I lean over, and I have nothing on the side. I haven't played it either. I wanted more points even now with the Colts, even how well they're playing, and the Bucs. I wanted more points here to really pull the trigger. I needed over 3 for sure, to back the Colts here.
We all remember what happened this time of year last year with these Buccaneers. And they went on a roll and they took care of business. And I think, everybody's remembering that. And
yes.
So
it's hard to not remember early on too, though, right, Jimmy? It's a little bit. That's why it's very difficult. You remember these playing bad on the road, but yeah, you think of last year, such a low number here for the Bucs. I just can't run out and bet them though, right here. Not the way the Colts have been playing.
One thing that bothers me if I'm the Colts, I want to throw this out. They have no depth in the secondary, none, 0. And when you look at that secondary, I'm not a big Rock Ya-Sin guy. I think that guy, you can beat him, especially if you've got multiple weapons that can beat you. And that's the one thing that the Bucs have. They got more than just one guy they can rely on. They've got Evans. They've got Godwin. Wait till they get Antonio Brown back. Gronk's going to be there for this game. And there's a lot of different options for Brady to go to against a secondary that doesn't have depth. Top 2 safeties are injured right now and may not play in this game as well for the Indianapolis Colts. That's definitely a concern for me. And that's kind of why my first thought was over, because I think Tampa can throw on Indy, and I think Indy can run on Taylor, especially if Vea doesn't play. Vea is the key. Vea is that good against the run, and the Tampa run defense is noticeably weaker without him against the run. Now, it was good against the Giants and Barkley on Monday night, but I don't think Barkley was 100%. That's number one. And number two, if you're going to compare the Giants' offensive line to the Colts' offensive line, you might as well leave the show right now because you can't compare those two offensive lines. The Giants are a bottom 5 O-line. The Colts are a top 5 O-line. So it's going to be much more difficult, I think, to key in on that run game for the Bucs defense, especially if no Vita Vea on the field.
It's an absolutely fascinating situation. Just felt like when the Buccaneers were not, when they lost those 2 games back to back, that there was just no concern whatsoever with Brady. He knows what his team can do, and he knows when he wants to be right, and it's not in mid-November.
Yep.
In saying
fascinating game. But you know what bothers me, Jimmy, about the Colts now? Last week was the spot for the Colts to back them. Plus 7.5, playoff revenge against Buffalo, a healthy amount of points, a fired-up team, a good matchup against the Bills. And now everybody saw that game, and everybody's saying, wow, look at the Colts. Look at it now. Hyping them up and getting excited about them. It just feels like flavor of the week. You know what I mean for the Colts? And sometimes the flavor of the week is not a good bet going into the next game.
Nothing official for any of us at this point?
Nothing official as of right now. Just a little over.
I do have to say, if you like the over a bit, I mean, I take the 51.5, the key number of 52 a little bit, especially in the NFL, because once you start getting the 50s in the NFL, I don't always love it. But I think the Bucs will move it. With all those weapons, I think the Colts will be able to move it too in this ballgame. It just can't get over 51.5. Can it get there?
And there's Clint saying nobody's fading the Bucs and Brady. No fear. Bet the Colts after Clint cashed so easily with the Colts last week.